Greetings, world. Welcome to another Mental Roladeck Live. This one is called No Stress Life Interview with the great Rich Lamr. Greetings,
Oh,
King.
great, huh? I was looking around. I was like, who is he talking about?
We're going to get there. We're going to get there.
I feel you, bro. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And good to be on the Mental Roladeck platform. It's been a minute. Loving it.
Yeah. Um,
Positive energy.
so basically, this interview pertains to a more vulnerable side of you that we're not used to. I mean, you talk about it with us and so on and so on. So we're just gonna give the audience a piece of it to let them know who you are and so on and so on. Yeah, man. So where were you?
So,
Where did they spit you out? Let me stop. where were you born, King? Like, in what city were you?
oh, you going all the way back. You
It's an
going all the way.
interview, right? Let's
You
go,
going
man.
all the way back. I gotta make sure. Shoot. I gotta make sure I don't say too much.
Yeah, don't tell them your social security.
Yeah, I can't go there. But you going all the way back to the birthplace?
Absolutely, we're gonna see
Birthplace.
step by step, like how you transform into the man you are now.
Wow, I was born in upstate New York, Buffalo, New York,
Okay,
and it was snow and oh man, it's cold. It's cold over there, but we enjoyed it growing up in the snow. We enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved growing up in upstate until I got older. You know, shaking the car off of ice.
but as a child, King, where did the influences came from that drew you to where you are now? The life coach, the musician, the author, the terminology we use in Jamaica, the gallus. Nah, let me stop. But yeah,
Uh,
I want you to give us a breakdown of how you got there.
oh man, this is how long we got? We only an hour?
Only an hour, King. We got condensed everything.
Wow. To make a long story long, it well, growing up in Buffalo at the time I grew up, it was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of diversity. Not only um, not only in media form, there was no like internet, like we know it today. So back then you had like the radio thing going on and uh, and a lot of entertainment. Now Buffalo, I don't, if people the people that's not familiar with Buffalo, New York, it's on the other end of New York City. So it's like, you know, it's up near Lake Erie, Niagara Falls. But growing up in Buffalo, when I grew up, it was a lot of talent because right now I'm a holistic coach, musician, and and all the stuff and author. But growing up in Buffalo, it first started with diversity. Diversity meaning by it being next to Lake Erie, and we had cities close to us like Detroit. Detroit was on the other end of Lake Erie, and Cleveland was like in between. But all of that stuff cross pollinated in terms of the people. Because I grew up with a father that played saxophone and a brother that played drums. They was older than me, So I always heard music in the house, and there was always influence of music, like the you turn on the radio, or everybody had the new record or album, so there was music. I always woke up and went to sleep to my father playing the saxophone. I mean, it got to the point to where I could sleep to music. Some people can't sleep when they want to sleep; they don't want to hear anything. But my father would always blow the saxophone. But at that time, uh, most of the older men worked in a plant. My father worked in a plant, and but he played saxophone in a club on the weekends. And then my brother started playing drum. My brother is like 8 years older than me, so it's like uh, he played drums in the clubs, and so they used to sneak me in all of these clubs, and and I think that's why my life is kind of like I'm always like a fly on the wall at certain places when it comes to like seeing some celebrities, or really not a part of it, but in the same room or brushing shoulders with that. But on the other end of that coin, the holistic side of me was always there also. But I would always hide it. And, growing up in New York, you can't be philosophical to your friends and be like, what are you? You get beat up, right? So I would always hide that. And it became like a tug of war. I always felt the nature, and I always felt the nature or something out there was communicating with me. But, you know, growing up with the Baptist influence, I grabbed onto Christianity first.
So, so would you say your life was a hard one? Like the norm to most kids. I mean, Buffalo is actually not a Best-Eye Stuyvesant, or a President Street or so on. What would you say your life was like? Was it rough? Was it a smooth? Because you did have both parents, right? I didn't hear you mention anything about your mom.
Yeah, my mom and my dad was there, but New York City, like in Brooklyn or you in Bed-Stuy or something, I didn't get a New York City experience until I grew up. But certain parts of Brooklyn, when I started going to New York City, was like Buffalo when I was growing up. It was like it was the same but different. It was not as aggressive as Brooklyn, but in terms of growing up in the street, playing in the street, it was very similar. And different colloquiums, they said different things, they had different lingo. But by New York being so diverse and massive, the diversity in Buffalo at that time came from Cleveland, Detroit, Niagara Falls, and it was more of a diversity with different nationalities. Like when I went to New York City, I noticed that people in Brooklyn, a lot of them just stayed in Brooklyn. They didn't even visit Harlem or anywhere. And but in being in Buffalo, we could walk to Canada. We used to walk to Canada. You could walk to Canada right over you know, and they had a little custom thing going on. Then we walked to Niagara Falls, Canada, come
You
back.
were you were that close.
We was that close.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, no, we wasn't that close. Like you could like literally walk, but we would like drive to like to the Peace Bridge
Okay.
and walk
Okay.
to Canada. You could actually walk it. It'd be a long walk, but they had a bridge there in Buffalo called the Peace Bridge, and that bridge was our Brooklyn Bridge. It took you from Buffalo to Canada.
Okay. I've ran through there. I've driven
Yeah,
from New York
yeah,
to actual Canada before. And I had to go to Buffalo, man. Like it was cold as sheesh. Yeah. Um, that's dope. But as I noticed you mentioned, as a child getting sneaked in these clubs because your father, he played, your brother played the drums. You were like a fly on the wall. So
yeah.
how would you describe your being 12 in Buffalo, growing up in a household? where your father worked, but it seemed like his natural love came for music. How did that influence you at the age of 12 going forward?
Yeah, it was a major influence, but it wasn't. I didn't see it as a major influence until I got into music. I mean,
Took it for
they,
granted.
I did, but but see, it's strange. That's a good question because I was really into writing poetry. I was into all of this philosophical stuff at an early age. But my father and my brother, like, they kept trying to shove instruments in my hand. I tried the drums. They bought me a guitar, electric guitar, and I loved music, and I loved hanging out and sneaking in the clubs and going to tell my father a message and going through and see all the grown ups drunk in the club. And
You love the kicks. You
oh
love
man,
the kicks.
I loved it. But I never. We had so much fun growing up in Buffalo with my crew, so to speak, or the guys I hung with on the street. I didn't take music seriously enough. I mean, I had the talent to do it, but music is a strange thing. I mean, some people, like my father and brother, had a talent to play, especially my brother, to play that didn't need much rehearsal. But on the other end, they didn't have a writing ability. I had a writing ability, but I didn't have the ability as a musician that they called giggers, where you could just get on stage and had a good ear to play with anybody, and I had to develop that, you know. and- but I always
So,
loved it.
so, okay, going through these different motions, and it's funny how creative people that's powerful creatively go through this phase where they take things for granted, and don't see the meaning of it until they reach a older age, basically. So that's your 12 year old endeavor, right? So
Yeah, because they was like, oh, you don't want to be no musician, but I love hanging with the musicians. But it's funny you say that, Jay, because at 12 years old, I won this award. I won the citywide award for poetry, and uh, I wrote it at 10 years old, and I entered it at 11. And and they had this thing. They put it in all the libraries and all that stuff. So I think that was like an early sign that maybe I write a book or something. And so all the musicians that was trying to get me to be a musician, they was like, oh, okay. So when they found that out, they was like, oh, he a writer. He not, he not like he on the other side. He not on the same uh, energy as us in music, you know. Uh, and because I was winning awards writing poetry from 11 years old all the way up to 20.
and that's powerful because it's crazy how as fathers we act as if we know what's correct for our children, even when they're showing us basically what is it that they're aiming to be or become, right?
Yeah.
So what was Rich Lamr like in high school?
Oh, I was a class clown. You know, I was really good in sports, and I mean, I was really good in sports, but it was like the best of times, the worst of times, Jay. I was really good at sports, but didn't have the size to do it.
Or you a micro man?
Yeah, I was like, do y'all got like a junior team? That got like a 75-pound team. It was because I was like always the shortest. I
So
was always the shortest, and now, not that short people can't play and be in the, but I was I didn't have like the muscle mass that my brother had. My brother and father is like 6 feet tall, dark, and handsome. I was like this little light skinned dude. They was like, who is this dude that like to sit around like he meditating all the time. And but when I got into sports, I was really good. Didn't have the size to play it. So in the first half of high school, I would just, I didn't get no popularity from sports, but I got popularity by being a class clown. And then the last half of the high school, I was doing nerdy stuff. I was still writing poetry and like and undefeated on the chess team. And the girls would go crazy over the athletes, right? And I'd be like, look, I'm number one in chess.
Yeah, okay. That's when the bell bottoms came out in the
Oh,
and
come on,
that
I
and
ain't that old, man. Come on, you see now you clowning.
with the long V neck coming down to the navels
Yeah, when they first came out with the wheel.
with the super afro.
I
You
did. I
had
cut. I
you
cut.
had no aquarium shoes, did you?
Oh man, I had all that. I had to have the platforms. That'll make me, that'll make me taller.
um, giving the fact that you were a writer um, of poetry, stanzas. You write a lot of stanzas for the musician. For the rappers, they call them bars. Same difference. Um, what was the most prolific or profound poetry you have ever written? I'll wait till you finish your drink.
No, that's not beer or anything, ladies and gentlemen. That's some good spring water going on. But
Yeah, I
I
hear
had
everything.
I was writing all of this stuff, and well, Jermaine, some of this story. It's like when I wrote my book, I had all these piles of paper. It's not like that I had a diary growing up or some type of journal, but for some reason, Jay, I would always write stuff down. You know, Now, mind you, this was the days of the little black book when people had put the girlfriend numbers in. You had a pad and a loose leaf notebook that they call it.
Are you
And
telling on yourself?
I'm
Because that
telling on
sounds like pimping.
myself. I wrote everything down, man. Like everything that happened to me, right, bruh? So it's like if I almost got in a fight, I wrote that down. If something happened good, I wrote it down, and then I would just put it away. But I start writing these poems, and I submitted one. They had something called an African History Week. And so one of my friends said, you should submit this poem or write something. And it's $500, man. You need to get that money, Rich. I think you'll win. So I was like, okay, I'll submit this one. And I got this telephone call, and people was like in my home. They had, like, when you went to high school, they had a thing called a homeroom. I don't know if they still call it that.
Yeah, they
Where,
do.
okay, so I went in the homeroom and everybody giving me that. It's like pats on the back. I was like, hey, what happened? Y'all got the right person? And so they was like, oh, you won the citywide poetry contest, and it may go statewide. It was a poem I wrote called Homesick, and it was about an African who was captured and taken over the Atlantic to be a slave, and he started talking to his grandchildren who was American, that and just turned into this poem. And it started out like, oh Africa, I'm the true fetus of thy dust. And I don't remember it all, but I remember the last line was like, oh Africa, if I ever see you again, don't say hello in our native tongue, for I will not understand you. And that was the father telling the grandchildren, you lost your language, you lost your identity, you lost everything to this kidnapping. And looking back on it, I was like, that's pretty deep for a 16, 17 year old.
Okay, and that is deep. But it's funny because like most of the time I speak to you, you're talking about Africa, and I'm like, bro, we're not from Africa. You just you you you're you feel it within you, like there's a part of you there, right? So you think you believe that poem had anything to do with it?
Well, don't forget, I grew up in an era where, you know, Muhammad Ali and always, and this was right after this was right not too not too many years after the George Foreman fight. And that was a big thing to us because Muhammad Ali beat George Foreman in Zaire, Congo. I think it's Zaire, Africa, and we thought that was a big thing. You know, it was our Joe Louis. You know, like when Joe Louis was champ back in the '40s, it gave uh, it gave our people a sense of confidence and a sense of it expanded our consciousness.
Pride.
You know, yeah, and pride was there, and it was like, hey, and then when Ali did it, it was the same thing, it was just more modernized, and everybody was on the African thing, and and so, like I said, I always wrote stuff down. I said, well, let me write about this. And so, but I created something because back then I started writing short stories, and I was like, what if I write, instead of writing a poem like, with words that just explain something, let me write it like a grandfather talking to his grandkids. It's that type of thing.
And that's powerful, man, because I can relate to that. It's kind of like the book I wrote where the
Mhm.
fetus is telling the story of the voices
Right, right.
around him.
Yeah.
um okay, so he had to sound like he had a very fun life, but what is this pimple on the face, different form of energy Rich Lamr like? This teenager that think he's a man with a different swag now, like because your personality doesn't change. Who is that Rich Lamr?
That Rich Lamar?
Yeah, that one, the inquisitive one, the one that get the little freckles on his face, and now he's smelling women now, so his
Oh,
energy is different.
I was always into the women. I was a weird dude, but I was Richie back then. It's like
Lino.
I was Richie back then, and it was like it was crazy, man, because I was a class clown, and by my brother being more popular than me, when you grow up with an older brother that's like 8 years older, and my brother was making more money than my father in the plant playing drums in a club. Okay, and so looking up to a big brother like that, and not only he was playing drums in the club, he was like the Golden Gloves champion of New York State. And and so by me being smaller, nobody picked on me because they knew my brother was Golden Gold champion about to go to the 1976 Olympics.
That's
So
like that's like you picking on Eddie Murphy and Charlie Murphy is around.
exactly, exactly. But it's funny, Jay. When you grow older, when you're younger, somebody 3 years older than you can seem so much older. My brother was 8 years older than me. But when you grow up, you'd be like, hey, you're really not that far from me because we was both in our 20s at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you younger, man, that seemed like an uncle. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
It really does. To me, anyway, it was because it was just so far from my life. I was living a fantasy world when I was young, and my brother was actually doing it, meeting celebrities, boxing, and everybody knew his name, and he could beat up everybody on the street. And I had trouble just with the little scuffles with girls. Because growing up, everybody was fighting, everybody was hanging out, but we all had our fights, and all had our falling outs, and then we come together.
It's like, you better calm down, sucker. Come around
God,
here with Shit, your job, beat your job, turkey ass, brother.
Can you dig it?
Can you dig it? You know, light skinned dudes thought they were the shit back in the 80s, boy. Like, the energy was different coming off of y'all. I mean, in the 90s, y'all start losing your powers, you know?
Oh, and Michael Jordan ended all that. He said, it's enough of the afros and the Jerry curls.
Oh, man. Oh, man. We macho now, fam. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Jordan.
That's funny.
Jordan put an end to all of that with the quickness.
See, the thing though, man, like, what was your habits like? Because looking at you and hearing you now is like a total different turnaround. You know, you said you're a class clown. I mean, I can see that reflection, and you have your funny moments, and then you have your moments where you're sincere a lot. And then when it comes to this holistic side of you, it's like you're super sincere with that. It's like you don't even play with it. It's like you eat, sleep, shit. No stress life, period. So what was the transition like, leaving the carefree poetry writing, living one way? Because I know, like, based on the era you grew up on, man, like, food stamp was crazy, because that's y'all had the government cheese that was the size of bricks, right?
Oh
The
yeah.
peanut butter in the can and all the pork
Right.
and so on and so forth.
Right.
So, speaking from that aspect of your life, how did you get here, being so holistic and gravitating to being a coach?
It was you know, the best way I can put it is, and I tell people now, I said, some people tell me, I need you to tell me how you did this because I see it makes sense, and I'm in a bad uh, place in my life right now. And I was like, look, I'm really not saying anything that nobody already knows. It's just I was like this all my life, except I was distracted away from it. And it didn't hit me hard. It's like I tell people I had died and came back to life because
Explain.
when I was at home, I always had support. Not financial support, but I always had my brother, my father. I always had, it was a big support system. We had a neighborhood that was family, and then we was there, and we can home home Buffalo was home place. When I went to New York, Atlanta, Boston, it was like that was home plate. But when I went out to the West Coast, to Vegas, that was a whole different thing. You know, by that time I was playing music, but I was still at heart a writer and a coach. I was coaching at 13 years old, like football and like little league. I would help in little league football. I was always in terms of coaching then, admonishing people and directing people. But when I went out to Vegas and start seeing and hanging with some of the big dogs or so-called big dogs, and then my situation started falling through. I was always secure in my world, but my depression really started hitting me when I discovered that my world wasn't the world. You know, I didn't know how insecure I was, how broke I was, till I seen these people throwing $5,000 on the crap table, you know, and and standing next to Charles Barkley, you know, in the bar and watching him just throw money around, and then I leave Charles Barkley, and over there is I see Natalie Cole, and I was like wowed by all of this. And then I was like, this is great. I want to be a part of this. Then I start playing music, making $1,000 a week in Mandalay Bay. And but and then it all started leaving me. I didn't, because there's so much competition there. I was really a writer, not really a keyboard player that can hang with all of those players out there who's been out there and know the gig scene. And so when that started dwindling, and my health started dwindling, and my marriage started dwindling, and my world was already gone. So now I'm like, man, I'm sick, I'm broke, and I don't have a job, and I'm losing my image.
Would you say that was a superficial world?
Yes, it was very superficial, and that's why I'm big on beyond the surface, because superficialness is what killed me, spiritually, psychologically, biologically, financially, all the above. So I don't even think superficial anymore. It's to the point to where it's like I came home from, like somebody that come home from a war and still sleep with their gun.
The
So
paranoia.
yeah, and it was like, but my thing was, I don't. If I see anybody headed towards that road, I want to say and do something to stop them.
Wow. So you wanna walk the people through a little bit of your death. When I mean by death, your rebirth, because you went through a phase, like you just broke down your health psychologically and so on and so forth. Like you want to give them a little more in-depth explanation of how you died and what really caused it. I know you mentioned depression, but
Right.
we like details.
Yeah. Like when my image started getting shattered, when I started losing my music jobs and the money, that superficialness, and my marriage started falling through, and then fast forward to, and then all of a sudden I started losing my hair from out of nowhere. I'm losing my hair, and I'm not even that old. And so I'm nervous, and but I still had a music job, but I had to get a day job because music wasn't coming in. So I got this little day job I was doing for steady money, but I was depressed, but I was functioning in dysfunction. So I was going to work and trying to get myself back on, but still crying myself to sleep, trying to stay away from drugs and drinking, because at this point my image was being shattered. You know, how am I going to explain to people? I come out here to do music, and I'm working, I'm doing everything that I didn't want to do in life.
Do
So
you
now,
realize? I'm sorry, I just wanted to get this out. Do you realize the social side of us is what really is the ego? Is really the ID? That superficial part of us is what we
right,
hold on to, and that's the part we be like, "Oh, that's not me."
yeah, yeah, and that's and see, that's what was happening to me. I had to face that, because like a bum on the street. I mean, you can fake being broke when you're wealthy, but you can't fake being wealthy when you're broke.
Mm.
I was living the Vegas lifestyle, but you can't fake that when it start dwindling down. And so my health, I never had a hair or health problem, all of a sudden I got this hair and health problem. And I was playing in this club, and it was a type of lounge, a cigar lounge. It's a cigar lounge, and in Vegas, not too far from the strip, just right down the street from where Prince was playing. Actually, Prince was playing at the Rio at the time, and but people used to come to cigar lounge. It was like the afterthought when they got off the strip. It was a Ruth Chris Steakhouse next door, and people used to eat their steak and come over and sit in the lounge and smoke cigars. And so a lot of celebrities used to eat at Ruth Chris Steakhouse, and the celebrities that love cigars used to come in there. From R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, and all of these people came in for cigar. Tom Selleck used to come in there. They love cigars, but they had speakers outside to where, because it was like in a plaza with Ruth Chris Steakhouse, and if you can, and when you walk through, you heard my show on the speaker, and so I was getting ready to take a break. I was playing this jazz tune called Take Five, right? And so I always played that before I took a break, Take Five. So this guy came over and he was like, "Oh man, that sounded really great," you know. But we had like a guy from the Caribbean that used to roll that used to had the rolling that kept the rolling papers and the humidors together. This guy from the Caribbean, he's had these papers that people used to come in and didn't smoke cigars to get, because he had all the Caribbean stuff.
The Tabo Whistler, the
Yeah,
Whistler paper.
man, this guy had all the stuff he wrote, and then uh he was like, "Hey man, I'm with this guy, man, who loves jazz, man." And I was like, "Oh yeah." So I was the type to always try to get more people in the club, because me and the owner was real good friends. And so I go out there, and this funny looking guy is in the back seat of this I think it was a Range Rover, and he was like, "Hey, I love jazz, man. I love jazz. That was you playing?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And so he's looking at me. He's like, "Man, you're sick." He said, "You're sick, man. You got diabetes and your face is swelling up and you may have cancer." But he's saying all this. I was like, "What the hell is this? I'm just trying to get you, you know what I'm saying?"
He gave you a reading.
Yeah. This dude is reading me, man. And I'm like, "Man, just come in the club." He's like, "Oh, I don't like cigar smoke, but the Caribbean rapper guy, we just want to pick up some stuff." And so the next day I went to work and I fell out. Paramedics
Wow.
had to come get me at work. I had kidney failure. And then I was like, and then it dawned on me that that guy that was telling me that was Dr. Sabi.
Oh shit.
And I was like, I didn't know who he was at the time, you know. And I
Oh
was like, but it's
wow.
like, I was like, the very next day, man, I fell out, and it was like, I had these little back pains going into work, but I was like, well, whatever. And that had never happened to me before, because I was always energetic. And the doctor tell me, well, you got kidney failure and you got some stones going on, and we gonna take some blood tests. And but I was always aware of herbs, and I was like, and then it dawned on me, I was like, man, that guy told me everything just the other night. And so that's when I started. The doctor was like, if you don't get on this medication and take these tests. I didn't have the money to do all of this, Jay. I did, and I wasn't a fan of medication, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do these herbs. I'm gonna do this right now. And the guy was like, you might not live 90 days. There might be so much complications after 90 days. I was like, well, I'm gonna come back in 90 days, and if I still need it, I'll
Wow.
take it.
90-day cleansing program, huh?
That's where that came from.
Interesting. Three
That's where that came.
months.
3 months. 3 months changed my whole life. And I still use that as a slogan today. I still tell people that today. But I was bad, and it was like, and and to answer your question, that's part of where that came from. But I just want to tell people out there who's suffering or anything, you're never alone. I don't care how bad it gets, depression wise or sickness wise. All of that happened to me was ordained. I mean, I was ordained by the universe to move on.
Rebirth.
Yeah. You're never alone. I don't care how bad it looks. You're never alone.
Going through that and transforming into the man you are today, right? The holistic coach. At what point in your life did you decide? Because I remember say you said you used to keep paper on top of paper. What point in your life that made you wanted to write this book, man? Because I got this book, King, and I've always tell you this, is I'm like a broken record. The book is like eating candy. The more you read it, the more you desire the book. And it's simple, but it's deep at the same time. What made you write this book?
Yeah, I appreciate you for saying that. You've always supported me, Jay. And I love you for that. You're not the easiest person to love. So, but you still, you still, you still my guy. And it's like I really appreciate you. And it's like when I came out of that, man, it's like I want to help people. You know, and I always like to talk, even though I love music to death. I love art. But as much as I love music and writing poetry and writing, I love talking more. And the universe told me you need to employ all your talents because I hated jobs. So I started employing all my talents and I started talking, and then I started researching and learning more and more about herbs and about natural things. And then I was like, you know what? I'm looking at all of these papers and all these memoirs, and I started categorizing because a lot of memoirs was just about um, some memoirs was talking about death, and then some papers was talking about spirituality, and then I started sectioning it off, and then I was like, you know what, I can make a book out of this, and then that's how the book. But it took me like 4 years to do it. Then I started incorporating all of my experiences and all from what I was writing.
Transitioning through this book, right? Did you sat? I know you said it took you 4 years, but did you sat and thought about how and why you wrote the book the way you wrote the book?
I was mad, I was mad not only at myself, but I was mad at society. When you get like really mad, you get paranoid. When you especially coming out of a depression, sometimes it creates a paranoia, and you just don't trust anybody, But writing the book, I was like, even though I'm mad, I don't trust government, I don't trust women, I don't trust jobs, I don't trust nothing. I was bitter, and something told me, says, you know what, write this to help people, not to fall for the deception that you fell for. And so if you look at the book, it's not a book specifically about something. I tried to I wrote the book like if somebody picked the book up, they could go through their psychological life from beginning and evolve with the book and have a conversation. I wanted to write the book to where to be neutral, where anybody could pick it up and relate to the book and see life for themselves instead of through the reverend or the preacher or the teacher. I wanted the book to be something beyond the Bible, beyond a school book, beyond a textbook, beyond somebody's advice. A book that would help somebody see for themselves.
So, in other words, no institution. You took the institution out of it.
Right.
You made it more organic to nature, basically. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, because nature was a good thing for me to use to make it neutral.
Understood.
And what helped me too, nature is what healed me. And I'm still learning from nature. I'm a student. I'm still a student. I'm going to be a student for the rest of my life. But I wanted people to see, because part of my depression was from trusting and believing in institution that I felt let me down, because certain things I learned didn't affiliate with me. Certain things I was eating didn't affiliate with my body. So I said, I can't trust this.
And what do you mean? Because I like details. This is how I learn.
Mhm.
Um, Given the fact that you figure that out, how can the normal person figure out what affiliates versus what don't affiliates with their actual anatomy?
When you get sick, and I didn't know it was happening to me. I didn't know that I was a manic depression all my life, and then the volcano erupted.
A
You know,
functional crackhead.
yeah, I was functioning in dysfunction. But to put the details on it, when you get a headache, when you get heartburn, when you get like those are the little check engine lights that come on. Is whenever you get sick, as a violation going on, that something is foreign that you put in the body. It's like walking through a smoky room and you start coughing, because uh, the lungs are saying, "Hey, this is not oxygen."
Mm, mm. So, what are some of the foods that you had to ease your way from that you found out, apart from pork? I know you used to tear that up. Apart from meat that you had to actually remove yourself from in totality.
A big change happened. I mean, that's the all obvious stuff: the meat, the dairy. But a big change happened to me when I stopped the starch vegetables. When I stopped the corn, the carrots, the broccoli, the cauliflower, the beets and yams.
Y'all kill me with that. The yam. I ain't no damn yam, man. Come to Jamaica, or I mean, bring it to Jamaican show and show you what yam look like. But yeah, I got you.
Well,
For
this is America.
those,
America. They got
for
the
those of
yam.
you, he's talking about sweet potatoes. Oh man, it's funny you mentioned that, because there are two types of sweet potato, right? There's one that has the yellowish color in it, and there's like a white one where they claim is more healthier for you. But a starch is a starch, right?
Starch, starch.
Okay. Okay. So pretty much by analyzing what you're stating, by consuming starch,
Mm.
eventually it changes the circumference of your body. Like even the odors that comes from your mouth or your ass in somewhat way changes by consuming these things. Correct?
Yeah, but I want the people to see that they change. They affect you psychologically first,
Oh, expound.
because when you eat a carrot, and, and you eat and it can get complicated, but I didn't put all of this in the book, but I talk about this when I talk about holistic health. uh it's no coincidence when you get a bag of mixed vegetables, all the hybrids are in there. And once you get, it's like a carrot that a horse eats, or a sugar cube that a horse eats. It's easier to train him, and these things affect the nervous system and the brain first, and it makes you not passive, but it makes you uh it changes the structure of your hormones. It affects your hormones outside of the nervous system, and it just affects this. When this the starch breaks down to sugar, it affects the brain, and that's where the craving comes from. and then your glands get filled with it, like you're craving for sex or you're craving for some sensation. It's a very diabolical, mad scientist chemistry thing. That's why in the book I call it the science of deception. And my whole makeup and thinking changed when I stopped the sugar and the starch vegetables. For me, anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I got deeper and deeper, if you can call it that. I start talking more and more about holistic stuff, and anybody that knows me, they know what they're gonna get when they call me.
Hey man, I'm gonna be dead. I'm gonna be dead and killed by sex. All right, I'm not giving up that sugar. You bugging. Um, um, oh man. But ladies and gentlemen, you have to sometimes stand in awe, right? That's one of his quotes, because we don't see how our genetic makeup changes. We're even unaware that our intestines and organs change. Some with 30 days, some with 28. Some might change within 6. So when they say you are what you eat, that notion is true. But you can tell when there's something wrong with you by your breathing. Apart from Rich, there's also another guy. You have your Dr. Africa, R.I.P. to him. He used to mention like what these things do, the soft drinks, the sugar, and so on and so forth. So it cannot be a lie if all these guys that don't consume these things, right, have made a dramatic change within their life and aim to teach people about these changes. Because some of us are so damn ignorant. We'll talk about, yeah, man, I'll eat that pork till it kill me. Why would you want to die? Why would you want to die by pork?
Right. I mean, that is the statement. That is the statement. I hear it every day because I help people with a 90-day mind and body cleanse. It changes your mind. This is the reason why a lot of people can't come together, because it affects your thinking. You can't dialogue. You can't communicate with people without arguing. That's what this food and grease and hybrid vegetables do.
Dr. Sebi said it. He said the more blood you consume. I'm not innocent. I'll never act like I'm innocent. I could eat the crap out of some chicken, right? But and I'm a snacker, and that's kind of my dilemma, and I'm working on that. It's incremental steps, but I see the difference when I aim to change these things. My breathing changes, my body shrinks, my skin glows more. I'm a thinker anyway, but I can think without any blockage. And I also could tell when there's something off about my body. Either it gets too heavy, the back pains, the joint pains, and so on and so forth. So I've done the vegetarian thing for 2 years, and it was the greatest I've ever felt in my life. I was so light, I was so active. I went back to my youthful years, man. Like I could for hours. And the thing in men, like, don't feel embarrassed, but when you're unhealthy, your erection changes and your ejaculation is a warning sign of that too. If you go in and out in a woman and then on the 3 minutes or whatever, you're done, there's something wrong with you. Sincerely. And I can speak that off experience. Because once I eliminated the pus, which is milk, that's pus and blood and mucus, and the sugar, I saw the change. I went back to my former glory, like when I was at a youth, when I was a youth, now as an older male, I have to empty the chamber to go in for 45, 50 minutes. It is what it is. But you have to see these things and understand the changes you have to make, because we weren't born with a piece of chicken in our hand or any meat. We were living off the substance of the mom, and when we came out of the mom, we were consuming water because everything we needed came from her breast.
Right.
Rich,
That's correct.
now that you're here, you're holistic, and you see society going to shits, right? And you know what doctors say: the more blood we consume, the crazier we get. You know, because if you're living off the earth, you're more fun, you're more loving, and some might look at that like, oh, you're bullshit, but it's the truth. It's the truth, and you don't believe me? Experiment with a dog. You start giving a dog raw meat, his attitude starts changing. So what do you think is doing to you, given the fact that this meat actually has the stress of the animal being killed or whatever other diseases the animal have based on what they fed it? Like, dudes are feeding cows corn now. That's not its natural element. A cow is a what? Is an herbivore.
Well, you hear about these pets having cancer and all of this, but you don't hear about them doing it. And when you don't see no veterinarian hospitals in the Serengeti, do you?
Touche. Touche. And it's funny too, like we don't even examine our meats because sometimes the meat come with the cancer. You see like the black batches on the meat, and we think it's just regular, it's a part of the meat. But no, a lot of us are unaware that the meat is actually it's rotten flesh. It's not fresh, you know, and it actually comes in a dirty green that looks like money. It's the chemical that they apply to these meat that brings them back and make them look like they're fresh or they have coloring, you know, or the bleach they use. Look at what a steak is originally. It looks green because it's rotten.
Yeah, I mean, it's these pets have better health insurance than humans now.
Explain on that, because that's very deep.
Well, I don't have pets, but I have friends. I mean, there's so many dog lovers out there, and I hear people say all the time, especially when I was in the club before the pandemic, when I was really playing music and all that. And you take a break, and and I see people crying at the bar, and I'm thinking, oh, they girl left them or something happened. He's like, oh, my dog's got cancer, and I just spent $2,000 on it outside the insurance, blah blah blah. And I didn't know how people love their animals, and I was like, man, I know people that don't have that's looking for health insurance and can't afford it, and these pets, man, who if they ate what they designed to eat, they wouldn't have human diseases that humans get. But humans and pets get them because of hybrid. You know,
Absolutely. So if I'm willing to take action and change the way I consume food by removing the hybrids and go more to the earth and be more holistic, like me, not like you. But yeah, because I'm the one that's going to be doing it. So it's like me. I can't aim to, because what may work for your body may not work for me. You know, how can I start that? Is there a program? Because you are a life and a health coach, right? How can I get on your program?
well, my email, Rich Lamr 18 at Yahoo. You can just email me, RichLamar 18 at Yahoo, or go on my Facebook, 2 p.m. on Sundays. I do a holistic, or just contact my Facebook, Rich Lamr. Just look up Rich Lamr, and you'll see that same avatar, that same picture that's avatar on this. contact me there. Or call me 702-610-0687. And 3 months will change the rest of your life. It really will. It really does. I'm getting more and more clients now, and I'm glad that some people are. It's awakening going on. I'm not the only mind and body cleanse on the block. I mean, it's an awakening going on, and you know, I'm a holistic coach and help people coach in holistic health. But I got to stay abreast and keep up with my clients because they research all the time.
FYI, he's not a doctor. Listen to what he's saying. He's a holistic coach. I
Yeah,
have
I
to
don't.
emphasize that
Yeah,
out there for you guys.
I'm not. I'm not going. Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to prescribe no medication for you.
Also, King, where can I find your book?
Just Google. Beyond Thought by Rich Lamr, and you can get it on. You can get the Amazon, or you can email me again from that same email that I mentioned earlier, Rich Lamr 18 at Yahoo. And I can email you a version where you can read on your phone, tablet. I'm working on an audio version now. Waiting on, Jermaine may do it. I don't know. We're still talking to Jermaine's people.
Yeah, they want this sexy voice. Yeah. Um, You're the second person that actually told me that I should be a audiobook reader. And I actually thought about it and think I should, take up that mantle and make it happen.
So
Go ahead, Rich. You was about to say something?
yeah, as long as you don't change my words, Jermaine will change the word on you. Be like, I don't like that word. I'm gonna change it.
Nah, man. What is yours is what is yours is what is yours. And for
I'm an
me,
easy read. I'm an easy read though. It's only gonna be a 2.5 hour read for mine.
yeah, for me, um, it's worth it. The book is very beneficial. It was a great book. I'm gonna tap back into it, and if you would like, on Mental Rolladek's YouTube page, we have at least 10 sessions breaking down the different variations of the book. Yes, people, this is not our first rodeo, but I wanted to update him so you guys can be more familiar with him, who he is, how he got to where he is now, and what he does on a daily. This is a great guy. I can vouch for him. For the half of him, the half that I know, I can vouch for. The other half, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But yeah, you should check out his page. Run it by them again for me, please.
The page.
Yes, your page.
Yeah, just contact me on go to my Facebook, Rich Lamr. Go to my Facebook, and I have a show I'm doing too, a platform called Beyond the Surface. Beyond the Surface. I do that on Saturdays at 5 and Sundays at 2, 5 p.m. on Saturdays and and Sundays 2 p.m. all Pacific times. And this one I'm doing here with Jay is taking the place of that 5 p.m. Saturday. Because I would only do that for Jay, but his pay is so cheap, I might not do it again.
I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna send the invoice over. But for those of you that would like to actually participate in our lives, send me a friend request at King Uremia on Facebook. And to inquire about the group MEN-talRollaDeK, just inbox me. Follow me on IG at MEN-talRollaDeK. Also on Twitter at MEN-talRollaDeK. On YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and hit the bell icon. Also on Twitch, our newest platform at MEN-talRollaDeK. And with that being stated, Rich, do you have anything you'd like to say to the unhealthy folks out there? There goes one in the ambulance. Let me stop.
There you go.
We joke a lot, guys. Please don't take us serious pertaining to that. But when it does come to health and the beneficiary of life, we get serious on that. Rich, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I got something to add. I mean, it's, like I said, check me out on Sundays where I do the shows where I have a series where I talk about holistic health on Sundays at 2 p.m. Pacific time on my show, on my online talk show, Beyond the Surface. And those of you who not interested in doing 90 days, or you're not interested in donating to somebody to coach you or help you, remember, what you put in your mouth can eat you. Watch what you put in your mouth, because it can watch what you eat, because it can eat you from the inside out. And so, to simplify that, just cut down on the sugar, the chemical man-made sugar, the candy bars and the ice creams, and try to limit your sugars to 20 grams a day and under if you can do it. But start there instead of, this can get complicated, and a lot of people tell me I can't read ingredients and I don't know all the terms and all of those words. I'm like, if you see a paragraph on an ingredient, don't eat it. And
Wow.
cut down on the sugar.
What do you have a smartphone for? I Google everything else. I walk in the supermarket and look at and Google the ingredients.
Right.
Google will read it for you.
Yeah, I mean, we used to live in a place where you didn't need to know about chemistry and ingredients so much. But now you unfortunately you have to know about that. And use your, like Jermaine said, use your Google as an equalizer. Start Googling and learning about foods and the chemistry of foods and the foods from the earth. Learn as much as you can, but it's so hard on every level, because if you go in a supermarket, most of the stuff in there is not good for you, and so you have to do the best you can. And if you go to Google, some of the stuff you can't believe, because the people
lying.
Yeah, the people that wrote it is the same people that's trying to push these medications to keep you sick. It's like calling the police when you're getting beat up by the police.
So the first 10 searches or answers that they give you is a deflection. It's not the truth. That's why I utilize DuckDuckGo as my search engine. It's very organic. It tells you when Google is trying to tap into your privacy as well. So that's a great search engine, DuckDuckGo. And I say good night to y'all, man, and work on eating better. It changes the dynamic of your thinking. It changes the dynamic of you flowing. It makes you more aligned with the feminine, Mother Earth, nature. When you start eating correctly, eventually you will find yourself. You elevate to another frequency. And with that being said, love, elevation, and prosperity. Peace.
Positive energy to all.